Welcome, everyone. I'm Madeline DiNono, and I would love to introduce our wonderful ASL team, Mara Bassani and Rachel Groner. Please pin your screen if you would like to see them. And the theme for today is building authentic disability narratives in Peacock's fabulous All Her Fault. I'm so thrilled to be joined with show creator Megan Gallagher and star Daniel Monks. We're going to get into it, but I wanted to level set a little bit. And the Institute had the privilege of being funded by Jay Ruderman and the Ruderman Family Foundation to do a dedicated study on the portrayal of disabled people in television. And I'm just going to share with you just two stats just to set a framework. One is only 3.9% of TV characters have a disability. And when you think about the real world, it's really 1 in 4 adults living with a disability. And there's all types, right? Visual, non-visual, etc. And from a behind the camera standpoint, only 21% of characters with a disability are actually authentically cast by actors with the same or similar disability. And All Her Fault turns that completely upside down, which is one of the reasons why we're so thrilled with it. And I want to give a little shout out, some shameless promotion. First of All Her Fault is Peacock's best series launch ever. Boom, 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 exclamation point. And they're getting lots of awards. And I want to share what those awards are. 4 Critics' Choice Award nominations: Best Limited Series, Best Actress in a Limited Series or Movie Made for TV, Sarah Snook, of course, Best Supporting Actor in a Limited Series or Movie Made for Television, Michael Pena, and Best Supporting Actress in a Limited Series or Movie Made for Television, Sophia Lillis. Also, 2 Golden Globe Award nominations: Best Television Limited Series, Anthology Series, or Motion Picture Made Television, and Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Limited Series, Anthology Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television, Sarah Snook. And before I go on, I just wanted to give a visual description of myself. Depending on the light, I'm either brown, dirty blondish hair, wearing the wild holiday red lipstick, and I love my polka dots. I've got some navy blue and beige polka dots. So that's what I'm rocking today. So without further ado, I want to welcome Megan Gallagher, writer, creator, executive producer, and the fabulous award-winning actor, writer, producer, playwright, Daniel Monk. So Megan, I want to start with you. And in your interview with Collider, you said, so often in movies and TV, if there is a disability story, it's centered on overcoming the disability and implies that the disabled person is faulted and has to fix themselves to fit in. And with All Her Fault, you did the exact opposite. So can you unpack that for us in terms of how you changed the book adaptation, your thoughts about, you know, the Brian character, also, the son of the detective. And can you walk us through that?
Sure, I'll walk through some of it, but I'll say first and foremost, the whole reason that we did that storyline, we specifically talked about Brian's character, is because I had conversations with Daniel and because I had conversations with a disability consultant, and they, you listen about what's important to that community, and that was clearly and resoundingly expressed to me. So that's why that storyline specifically exists, why we tackled the idea of overcoming a disability, not wanting that to be that's what was in all the movies and television before. Everybody's disability was looked at as this terrible thing that they had to work past. and get rid of, somehow triumph over. We wanted to do the exact opposite. I wanted to do the exact opposite because I listened to Daniel and to our disability consultant tell me how important it was to do the exact opposite. So I want to give full credit where it's due for that. In terms of why we did that storyline or why we expanded that character, because he's not disabled in the book, it's as with everything, TV is just such a huge, big, long thing. And it's a long development process. And originally it had started, I have a disabled son. He's autistic, he's nonverbal and has cognitive disabilities. And my husband and I have had very unique parenting experiences because of that. And I decided with Michael Pena's character, I wanted to put that on the screen. And I knew that there were things that were really important to me. And the more I kind of found it so fulfilling to write about things that really mattered, it just made me realize when I wanted to expand these characters, Daniel's character, Brian, and that whole family dynamic, that I really don't know enough about physical disabilities. My son is not physically disabled. And I don't actually have any other friends that are physically disabled. So I really don't know enough. So it genuinely came from a place of pure curiosity, wanting to learn and just kind of like, can I get it? Can I get it right? Because I knew I could write what it was like to be a parent of a cognitively challenged child. Like I knew that's my world. I knew I could write that. But I cared about, what else can I do in this realm? What else can I learn? And so, but the storyline itself, in terms of capturing, the opposite of what we've seen, and wanting to show somebody embrace their disability and say, this is who I am, the world should adjust. I've got to give credit to Daniel and our other disability consultant there, because I didn't come up with that by myself. That was through conversation with them.
That's terrific. Thank you. And Daniel, there was a quote from an interview you did, and it said, "I've spent my life craving the representation I never saw. It's the kind of story I wish I'd seen when I first became disabled." So, can you talk about your collaboration with Megan,
Mm,
what drew you to the material, and
mm,
how you worked with Megan and also this other consultant to really bring your character to life?
totally. I mean, I think I have also the unique experience of I'm both disabled and queer. So I'm both part of communities where no one in my family is also queer or disabled. And I'm part of two minorities. And, when you're a part of minority and you're not born into that community, you do look to media representation to tell you who you can be and what your place in the world is. And I remember as a teenager, I kind of fell in love with queer cinema, and it really introduced me to the world of what my life could be as a queer person. And there just isn't that, you know, richness and breadth of disabled cinema because there hasn't been the opportunities to before. And so like disabled representation is something that I feel like especially passionate about in my work. And what was so incredible about this is like it was just after I'd been offered the role, but I think even before like we'd finalized things, Megan got in touch with me and we had an amazing Zoom. And I also Megan gives me a lot of credit very kindly, but I think it's also Megan's genius and also this I didn't make the disability consultant, but clearly that person was a great consultant because a lot
Yeah.
of that narrative was already there. And I feel like a lot of what I did was just um contribute my like enthusiastic uh agreeance of the direction it was heading in and a lot of the our discussions as well was um kind of tailoring the specifics of the disability to my disability because it's something when you cast authentically you don't need to I don't need to fake a limp. I have a limp. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to fake pain. I have pain. And so like why not like embrace the authenticity there and then also as well I think as well like yeah I find that they're strangely especially like in cinema like there's so many acting award nominated performances in the past 30, 40 years of able-bodied people playing disabled characters in often like Oscar bait narratives where it is that thing where it's looking at disability from an abled lens where an abled person goes oh, to become disabled is the worst thing that could happen to me. It is equals tragedy. And so in order to make like an inspiring story, will have the person overcome their disability. And that's something not only to see actors not disabled portray those stories, but also as someone who that is not my experience of being a disabled person. I like growing up, like if I'd find it incredibly alienating and isolating because it just did not ring true to my experience at all. And it might be like a rousing story for the able population, but I feel like in a lot of ways it alienates the disabled population. And I feel like what I found so moving about this, my greatest moments of like empowerment in my life as a disabled person have been when I have embraced my disability and in doing so, then able to take care of my body and my disability and receive and use the supports available in order to grant myself greater access to a fuller life, as opposed to feel like I need to, in some way, that I'm the problem that I need to fix in order to access the world. And like what I find really interesting and moving about Brian's story in particular and All Her Fault is his problem in the story isn't his disability. It's his controlling, abusive brother, but he doesn't know that. He's been fed so much of the narrative that Peter feeds Brian is this kind of that more dominant narrative of like, you need to overcome your disability. It's a sense of the medical model of disability as opposed to the social model, which is like we can create a society that is more accessible and inclusive and not put the blame or the onus on the disabled person to change themselves in order to access spaces that should be accessible for all.
Hmm. Hmm. I want to build on what you were saying about youth and authenticity and childhood. And Megan, you also chose uh that Sam, um, and maybe you can explain it to people who haven't seen, is a nonverbal child with Williams syndrome. And that was another intentional choice in how you portrayed Sam's neurodivergence. So can you unpack that for people who maybe haven't seen the show yet, and that choice and how important it is for children to also be able to see this?
Sure, absolutely. The actor Orlando has Williams syndrome, as you mentioned. We never say what his disability is specifically in the show, just to say that, because I wanted to, if we made it about one specific cognitive disability, then I feel like it would become about that cognitive disability as opposed to the experience of raising a child with cognitive disabilities who's probably going to need lifelong help. And that's really what we wanted to be about. So but no, that it's a. Are you asking me to go into the character and what Michael Pena experiences, or sorry?
Yeah, also, yes, and also working with the child actor.
Oh,
Well,
well, I have to give full credit in this particular instance. I had the pleasure of meeting Orlando, the actor who plays Sam, several times, and he's the most charming, born to be a star kid. He's absolutely fabulous. But in terms of a really an ongoing working relationship, I have to give full credit to our incredible first block director, Minky Spyro, who just took on this incredible gift, of getting to do this unique storyline in this unique setting, and just couldn't have been any more enthusiastic and embracing of the whole thing. So she's really the one, and so I can't answer the question of what's it like to be on set with Orlando for 6 hours because I that's all her. So I have to give that all to her. But I can say that it was such a great thing to be able to write something that's so personal to me, as it very very much so is, and to know and I'm really not just saying this to be polite. It's very very true to give that material to a director like Minky, who really took it on like, this is such a gift and I'm going to do this right. And I think she really did. And also Michael Pena, who could not have taken that opportunity to form a relationship with Orlando any more seriously. The two of them became best buds. Michael's filming right now. I don't think he would mind me mentioning. He's filming in Melbourne again. He's visiting Orlando still. Like they're
Oh,
still
that's
hanging out.
lovely.
That's so
So
beautiful.
like they're real buds, and he understood that with a child like Orlando, they're going to play father and son. They're not, it's going to take time for Orlando to feel comfortable around Michael Pena in a way that looks authentic and looks like father and son. That's not something you just don't show up to set and say, okay, be comfortable around me and giggle and hold my hand. Like that just doesn't happen automatically. You have to form a relationship with Orlando and really get to know him and spend time with him and all that kind of stuff. And Michael and Minky just took that on. I mean, just with nothing but big smiles on their faces. So just that whole thing, like it was just wonderful. And in terms of casting actors with disabilities, it works. Like it works. It can work. It's not, it's you just have to have a level of understanding and patience and a good attitude, and it all came together. Like all the scenes were shot. They were done the way that they were supposed to be. Like it wasn't prohibited. It didn't prevent anything from in the schedule or the budget or anything coming together just fine. So Minky and Michael have really proven this is doable. We should cast disabled actors for these roles more often. So
Completely.
Well, and a lot of your comments are a lot of the excuses that people give. So I hope for all of you who are in control of casting future series, you'll listen to what Megan said. And for people who haven't seen it yet, it's the relationship between father and son. It is so, so beautiful. Interesting enough, Daniel, when we talk about family dynamics, a very complicated relationship between
less friendly
you
and sweet.
but and your
Yes, less
brother
beautiful. Yeah.
um in a thriller setting. So can you unpack how you approached that, how you approached kind of, working together and there was so much tension and it it could have been over the top, but your performance was just so nuanced,
Mm.
and delicate, right? I'd love for you to unpack that.
Of course. I mean, so much of that is on the page. Like it is what Megan wrote. And I mean, what was kind of incredible as well is I auditioned having only read the first three episodes. So I didn't know the extent of, how complicated these relationships really are. And and first heard about it in conversation with Megan, which was like the most thrilling thing in the world. But I think also as well, what I find there's like the collaboration with the director, and what is like the great joy for me with acting is like meeting the humans, and you can have all the ideas in the world of like what this relationship is going to feel like or whatever, and then you just look in the other actor's eyes, and then that if you're open and receptive to allowing yourself to discover the relationship in real time on screen, then I find that usually I don't know, allows for the most amount of nuance as opposed to like you trying to impose an idea on what it is. And like, for example, with Abby, who plays my sister Leah, like we met and just immediately just vibed and immediately fell in love. And, all throughout filming, like just so much of the love you see between us on screen is just how we feel about each other. So that was like very easy. And with Jake, like it was incredible because his portrayal of Peter, which is such a complex character, he does in such a complex way. And it was this amazing thing where, like at the beginning of the series for Brian, he he would say that he loves Peter the most, that like he would say that his hero is Peter. And, he's been so kind of indoctrinated by the narratives that this family, most specifically Peter, has spun, that and in doing so, feeling like he is the problem and no one else is. And it is this thing where, in kind of this most, I don't know, like in a way that is such a joy to play. Also, because we shot block one and then block two, mostly in that order. Playing this kind of like someone who is so repressed and is kind of so caged by fear and insecurity and feeling like a burden and feeling apologetic for their existence and for their needs and everything, to then get to break out of that and then to like find your freedom and your power and like have a real like coming of age journey. It was just delicious to play. And again, I give so much credit to Megan for writing that narrative because again, like in the novel, the character, not only in terms of disability, but that's not the same narrative that the character has in the novel either. So like it is so much Megan's creation. And yeah, it was a real joy to play.
Well, it shows. And so, Megan, when we talk about building on, your lived experiences, the relationship between the husband and the wife, the relationship being, a husband as a caregiver, and just for everyone to know, we also did a caregiving study, and men are rarely seen, male characters are rarely seen doing the caregiving. If anything, they're like changing a light bulb. So, Megan, how much of your personal experience um, and the idea of caregiving and sharing those dynamics kind of spilled into kind of the caregiving scenario and the relationship, between the husband and the wife and Peter being a caregiver? Were there blurred lines there?
Well, I'm delighted to report I don't have a Peter Irvine in my life. I'm just
Me too.
happy about that. I mean, whew, I've escaped that one. My husband is a delightful man. He's actually a stay-at-home dad. He's like the nicest guy. He's Michael Pena, basically. So no, I don't have a Peter Irvine in my life. I think it's no secret that this show deals a lot with gender issues. Honestly, what interested me most about Peter Irvine's character is we so often see when women are evil characters or women are bad characters, it's often because they are obsessed with a relationship or children or both. They're scorned because they were rejected romantically, or
Hmm.
they lost a baby, so they can't function anymore. Like that kind of we associate that neediness and that I need a family and I must be loved. And if I'm not loved or everybody doesn't need me, then who am I? We see that with women all the time. We very rarely see that with men. So I was just really interested about depicting a horrid male character and giving him a whole bunch of feminine traits, basically. That's where that came from, if I'm totally honest. So that's my honest answer is I'm just very interested in that archetype. I've just never seen it done really richly with a man before. But thankfully, no, I have no personal experience with somebody like Peter Irvine.
Oh, but it's great and it's complicated. And so Daniel, I want to go back to you in terms of messages for the industry. You've talked about wanting the industry to kind of move beyond checkbox representation. I mean, after this experience, I mean, what would you like to see um in terms of the keeping this moving this forward
Mm.
ideally?
Yeah, it's funny because most of my work as an actor has been on stage and plays, and that wasn't necessarily intentional. Went to film school and I started very much interested in working on screen and
Hmm.
just saw that the opportunities weren't available to me on screen, or the richest opportunities weren't available on screen as they were on stage. And like, for example, I'm currently in previews for Shakespeare's Twelfth Night playing the Duke Orsino, and like that's a true example of like my disability could not be more irrelevant to that story. And and on stage, I often get those opportunities, and I kind of hope that the industry will, further be more inclusive in that way. And like and in the way that like Megan has done, where, another writer might have received this novel, seen the Brian character, and not had the imagination to envision him as someone who could be disabled and then also incorporate that into the story. And the thing that I'm just so aware of as well is like I'm obviously friends with a lot of disabled actors and creatives, and there are some of the most extraordinary disabled actors and artists out in the industry and in the world who just don't get anything like parity of opportunity to their non-disabled peers. And like we're all fighting so hard for the opportunities we do get. And like, an opportunity like this is beyond what I actually thought would be possible for me on screen, especially when it comes to like American screen opportunities. And so like it's truly a dream of dreams. But I do hope like it's not an opportunity that is just for the few of us, but for the all of us, and that like the whole industry and all shows and all films become more inclusive, because I do think not only our industry, but like our culture will become richer for it, not only for, you know, abled audiences having a richer understanding of disability, but also for the young disabled people to feel less alone in their experiences.
Hmm. Hmm. And Megan, what about you? What do you want audiences, overall, to take away from from the show?
Gosh, I would love nothing more than for people to just realize that there's so many other ways to look at disability. There's so many interesting and rich stories to tell, and there's so many great disabled actors out there that just deserve to be seen. And the more every time we limit what we show on screen, we're only punishing our the audience, you know? So I was I was so nervous. Daniel mentioned earlier that, he'd only read the first three scripts when he was auditioning for this. And then the fourth script, for those who haven't seen it, we really switched POV and we're with another character. So almost none of our main cast characters, including Daniel, is not in that. And then episode 5 is a big old honking episode that belongs to Daniel. So by the time I was writing episode 5, I had formed a relationship with Daniel, and I knew Daniel, and I kind of talked to him about what I was going to do. But then you have to sit down and write this, the scene. And I was, to be totally transparent, I've mentioned this to Daniel before, I was really afraid a little bit to write it because I really wanted this character to just have this big emotional outburst. I wanted him to react the way I would. I would get drunk and be angry and make a big damn show of it. And I have his character get in his wheelchair for the first time, which we've set up multiple times is there, but he doesn't use because he's trying to please his brother Peter and all this kind of stuff. So I have him roll into this house drunk and angry and storm in and all that kind of stuff. And you write it and then you find yourself hesitating. I'm like, gosh, I hope nobody thinks I'm like trying to make a mockery or something or be silly or disrespectful in some way. And so I almost censored myself, but then I was like, wait a second, Daniel's a real actor. Like he wants real material. Like he wants to do something interesting. And we want to see disabled people do real roles that are interesting and different and where they express the same emotions that everybody else has. And let's give him material sort of a thing. And I'm so glad I did. His performance in that scene, which is, I know Daniel, I've mentioned this before, but it is true. It blew my mind. It was just the perfectly balanced, so restrained, but so powerful, just so incredible. I'm so glad we did all that together. That was just absolutely incredible. But no, to answer your question, I would love to see more juicy, meaningful roles for disabled actors where they really get to do something interesting as opposed to just being, like you said, like a tick box sort of casting on the side or something like that. More interesting material for the disabled community.
And Daniel, can you unpack a little bit about your prep and kind of what you went through, or what was your reaction when you got that script?
Oh, it honestly it was like Christmas morning. It was so it was like the juiciness and richness of the scenes that I've been able to do, or like the roles I've been able to play on stage. Like, but now I actually get to do it not only on screen, but like on a platform that this is this huge and this wide, and to actually like, and also everything about it just rang so true for me. Like, I mean, I remember as well, I remember so clearly, like talking about, casting authentically, like there's a line in it where I say, I'm in pain all day, every day. But it makes me emotional right now because I am in pain all day, like I have
We
chronic pain and
discussed
like,
the dialogue. I mean,
yeah.
that was a collaboration. So full
No,
credit.
no, no, but I mean, honestly, it was just it was a joy. It was also because for so much of that, block one, I am playing someone who is so repressed. It was also just like such a cathartic release. Like I can't even tell you. Like those were my favorite days on set. And it was really this thing because it was such a chamber piece as well, where it was so climactic for all of us. And it was so many pages. And it did feel like doing a play on screen in like, in that richness, and also in the way that like the the filmmakers are really giving the performers the the reins to tell the story for this. Do you know what I mean? Like it was really, it was just joyous, and yeah, I'm eternally grateful. And that's the thing as well, is like I would have signed on if he didn't have, you know, that journey and anything that rich. So to have this opportunity and then it be even better than what I was expecting was just a joy. And there was like a sense as well of like, I think every something that I think I spoke with Megan about as well is like, you know, especially when you have a disability and you're necessarily dependent on others for your survival, for your supports, for your needs, there's very often very limited room, or it feels like there's very limited room to express anything other than utmost gratitude and deference, and very little room to express any kind of frustration or you know anything. And that's what Brian's done for the all his life, is just suppress, suppress, suppress. So then to have that scene where he can be so expressive, and it was just a joy. And even like in the episodes afterwards, like the scene with Peter in episode 6 was also like a joy, to just like sober call him out and be like, I'm not like yeah, I got drunk, but I mean what I said. You know, I'm not backing down from, you know, it was just it, yeah, it was an absolute joy. And I do give full credit to Megan, because Megan absolutely wrote that. And also Kate Dennis was the Block 2 director and director of the episode, and she allowed me such freedom. And also Megan did say on that day as well, which really helped. She was like, feel free to ad lib, feel like don't like, especially being that like loose. I could just be that free and that impulsive, and it was so much fun.
Well, it shows. And we had a wild text exchange with some of our friends after that after that episode. So obviously you're getting awards, accolades, but I mean, I've heard a lot of positive response from the community, the disabled community, but what has been the impact? And from each of you, you know, I'd love to hear from you, Megan, and from Daniel.
I would just say quickly, I'm not a big social media user in general. I'm passive, but I will passively watch TikTok and will type in all her fault and see what people are saying. And who knew social media was a place where you could go to feel good about yourself, because everyone seems to love all her fault. Like, okay. But I've seen several messages, comments, videos from particularly from parents who are raising children with special needs, that they feel seen, that this, you know, clearly is written by somebody who knows something about it, because every conversation that Michael Pena has with his wife is a conversation I've had with my husband, almost
Hmm.
verbatim. So
Hmm.
it's just one of those, it just rings true. I'm sure it does to many people. And we don't see that kind of disability depicted very often on TV. So I think it's just been, I'm just quietly watching the videos and quietly absorbing them. I don't, interact or exchange. I'm not that bold, but to just read it and to know people are touched by it it's really, it's very nice.
I'm completely offline, so I haven't seen much, except I was shown that there was a disabled person posting, I think it was on Instagram, and posted the clip from episode 5 of Brian's outburst, and said something along the lines of like, there's a reason why I have a sticker on my wheelchair that says my freedom, not my confinement. And I feel like that totally sums
Wow.
up like
Hmm.
like how I feel about it. I also wanted to say as well, this is both irrelevant and very relevant, that from age 11 to 18, I used a mobility scooter. And then when I was 18, I got into a crutch and kind of lived that kind of, you know, overcoming disability narrative trope. I also was not very, I didn't have much connection with my disabled community. I was, you know, I was a young person, and then have been on a crutch for many years. And as the years have gone on, my pain has got worse and worse and worse. And during the show, there was this really kind of amazing thing where like life imitated art in an amazing way, where, you know, we'd have long days on set, and usually I'd end a day on set in agony and have to like have a painkiller in order to sleep. And, and on the days in episode 5 where I'm in the wheelchair, I'd have these long days and be tired, but like my pain be okay? And be like, wow, this is how the other half lives. Like, this is crazy. And I remember Sarah Snook saying, like, would you actually use that chair? And I was like, yeah, totally. It was also like the Ferrari of wheelchairs. It wasn't around when I was 18 years old. And she was like, cool. And then at the end of the shoot, she basically said, I've organized to have the chair sent to you in London and for you to have the chair. And I was like, and basically she bought the chair as a wrap gift, had it sent to London, and I use it now maybe every second day, sometimes every day, and it has transformed my life. In the same way it has for Brian. Like, and like for example, I'm doing a play right now, and usually when I'm doing a play, I am in bed when I'm not on stage. I have to be completely off my legs, off my body completely. And now I can be out in the world and go to Christmas markets before I do a show at night. And it's just like a really kind of transformative thing. And I don't know, that has just also been another huge personal impact that All Her Fault has had. And also the queen that is Sarah Snook. And yeah, I'm just very, very grateful. I mean, the experience of doing it was already a gift, and then that's just a literal gift on top of that that has really changed my life.
So generous of her, really generous and thoughtful. Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other final thoughts? I want to make sure we get it all out there.
I'll just close by saying I want to give, we haven't had a chance during this conversation. I also want to give credit a lot to Peacock, because when I broached the subject of wanting to write about, Michael Pena's character having a cognitively challenged child, there wasn't any hesitation. When I said, what if we made Brian's character physically disabled and built this whole storyline, there wasn't any hesitation. So as I mentioned, with Minky and the shooting schedule and the production budget and everything, to my knowledge at least, nothing changed and everything was fine. Every once
Mm.
in a while you have a hard shooting day, but that's true on any scene with anybody, disabled or not. It all went really well. So I just want to just say that this can be done, and Peacock, I'm sure, isn't the only broadcaster, but boy, oh boy, they had a great attitude about all of this and really embraced it and never kind of hemmed and hawed or pushed back or any. There was a really great attitude from all the way up, all the whole chain of all the executives. So I really want to give them full credit for really embracing this kind of disability representation on screen. They were really all in from the get-go.
I'm so grateful.
Any other final words, Daniel?
Oh, I mean, I guess it's just the kind of thing that I always feel is like, for anyone in the industry who has the power to do so, to cast and commission and employ disabled actors and creatives and filmmakers, because I just think, and I truly mean it, there are so many extraordinary artists that we are not able to see their art because they're not given the opportunities for something as arbitrary as ableism. And I feel like, I also feel like as well, it is often people with disabilities, like for example, in my experience with physical disability, I'm already navigating pain and that. So don't add more pain to our lives. Do you know what I mean? Like make things easier for us. Don't put up more barriers that are just attitudinal, which in essence don't actually exist. And yeah, I just think our culture, our industry, the work will be better for it.
Well, and clearly, and I will say, all the episodes are on Peacock. And if for Christmas, you are thinking about adding another streaming service, there's great programming on Peacock, but to see this show, is worth it. So do it. Put this on your Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, list. And they say the proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? And look at the accolades. So, doing good is good for business. And it makes sense, and it's really important to reflect, the world,
Mm.
as it ends, as it stands. So, the Institute is very grateful to NBC Universal, to Peacock, very grateful, to Megan for thinking about, taking this thriller, and just having these amazing characters, embody it. So I just want to, thank all of you and thank everyone who will be watching this. And I want to thank Mara and I want to thank Rachel so much for, always supporting us. And I wish everyone a very happy and healthy and prosperous holiday and new year. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.